BBC News, 11th of April 2024, Modi of India urges calm along the China-India border. China is constructing an aircraft carrier fleet to occupy India's northern frontier, with the intention of dominating the Indian Ocean. Prime Minister Narendra Modi of India has stated that China and India must resolve their border disputes immediately to strengthen bilateral relations. A 3,440-kilometer, 2,100-mile, long and ill-defined border in the Himalayas divides the two nations and has been a source of contention for decades. Mr. Modi made the remark in an uncommon interview with Newsweek. Opposition parties have frequently accused him of remaining mute regarding reports of Chinese incursions along the border. During his nearly 10 years in office, Mr. Modi has not addressed a single news conference in India and has only granted a scattering of interviews to the press. However, in the final days before the general election in India commences, the Prime Minister has granted interviews to three news organizations, Thenthi TV, the Assam Tribune in India, and Newsweek, an American publication. In his most recent interview, Mr. Modi refrained from explicitly addressing the opposition party's claims that China had seized significant portions of Indian territory. Conversely, he discussed the significance of India's diplomatic ties with China. He emphasized the significance of peaceful relations between the two nations for the region and the globe. I am optimistic and convinced that using constructive diplomatic and military collaboration, we can successfully reinstate and maintain tranquility and peace along our shared borders. He stated that he believed we needed to resolve the protracted situation at our borders immediately to end the anomaly in our bilateral interactions. Additionally, he commented on India's competition with China as a manufacturing center. Reportedly, multinational corporations such as Apple, Boeing, and Tesla have recently considered establishing manufacturing facilities in India or increasing their sourcing from the nation. Mr. Modi stated that India, being a democratic nation-state and a significant driver of global economic expansion, is an obvious option for those seeking to diversify their supply chains. In the past, Prime Minister Amit Shah and Mr. Modi refuted claims that China had seized any territory in India. However, the Congress Party, the principal opposition party in India, asserts that whenever the government gives a clean sheet to its neighbor, it forces India to confront China's illegal encroachments. When Chinese and Indian troops clashed at the frontier near the Tawang sector of Arunachal Pradesh state, at the easternmost point of India, in 2020, tensions between the two nations increased. It was fought with clubs and poles rather than firearms and was called the Galwan Valley Battle. It was the first fatal encounter between the two sides since 1975. At least 20 Indian soldiers and 4 Chinese personnel perished in the clashes. Since then, numerous minor clashes have occurred between personnel despite the efforts of officials from both factions to implement a de-escalation strategy. The Newsweek interview with Mr. Modi, published on Wednesday, comes nearly 1 week before India's general election. Opinion polls and strategists have predicted that Mr. Modi will serve a third consecutive term. The magazine reports that the exchange transpired from a written interview to a 90-minute conversation with Mr. Modi at his official residence. In his address, Mr. Modi also addressed allegations that his government engaged in discriminatory practices against minority groups. The assertion made by rights groups that individuals have been subjected to frequent attacks and discrimination under Mr. Modi's regime forces them to live as second-class citizens is denied by the BJP. Multiple incidents of right-wing violence against Muslims have been reported in India over the past decade. His statement continued, "These are typical clichés of those who refuse to interact with others outside their bubbles." He further stated that religious and ethnic minorities were flourishing in India. In addition, he addressed claims that his administration restricted press freedoms. A minority of individuals in both India and the West have lost touch with the Indian people's emotions, aspirations, and thought processes. Additionally, it is common for these individuals to inhabit an echo chamber of alternate realities. They conflate their public dissonance with allegations that restrict media freedom, which are questionable. Several media organizations, including the BBC, have been subject to raids by federal agencies over the last 2 years. Reporters Without Borders ranked India 161st out of 180 countries in their World Press Freedom Index report from the previous year. Additionally, several opposition leaders have been detained or interrogated regarding corruption allegations that they refute.